Right. So it's 7:30 a.m. German time. Let's make it precise and start on point. A very good morning here from Schmincke Studios in Erkrath, Düsseldorf, Germany. It's a real pleasure for me to be here introducing Evan Woodruffe, a well-known artist from New Zealand. I personally had the great honor to travel with him through New Zealand. Well, it's already 2 years ago in 2019. And throughout the 4 weeks, I have learned a lot. And I'm really looking forward to learn in the next 45 to 50 minutes a lot more. And so I'm sending over the word to New Zealand, live from Auckland, to Evan Woodruffe.
Great. Thanks, Marcel. Good morning, everyone. Kia ora, as we say in New Zealand. My name is Evan Woodruffe. I'm an artist based in Auckland, New Zealand, and showing around the Asia Pacific region. Looking forward to when we can travel again, so we can do more of that. I've been working with Schmincke materials since 1985, and I'm always really enthused by the combination of tradition and technology that makes fantastic ranges of color. The ranges of color that are unsurpassed in my opinion. And today we're going to be talking about 3 of their very special colors, MUSSINI resin oils, which are unique in the world. They're PRIMAcryl artist acrylic and AERO color acrylic inks. These are 3 products that I have used over the last 30 odd years to make my work. So I hope to give you an artist's perspective on these. Now MUSSINI was the color that started their company in 1881. So we're up for a big anniversary this year. And as I said, it's a unique color. It's a resin oil color. And this makes it especially rich and lustrous for oil painting. There's a lot of technical information that Schmincke can provide through their brochures and directly from them. I'm hoping to give you that artist perspective. So just adjust this down. This is the color that started it all. This was the color I was using, Schmincke Norma professional oil colors, and I could not find in that range a transparent warm red. So I thought, okay, the MUSSINI, they have a much bigger color range, 108 colors, 60 of those single pigment colors, the purest form of color. And in that was this brilliant scarlet, which was a transparent warm red. And this is the color that first blew me away as far as colors go. I'd been using the Horodam, I'd been using the Norma Professional, and these were fantastic colors. But it wasn't until I opened a tube of the MUSSINI Brilliant Scarlet and saw how rich the color was. This is a glazing color, so the translucent colors are transparent so that we can see through this layer of scarlet through to the yellow beneath, and we get a glaze. Here the glaze is turning an orange. But the richness of the color here is due not just to the concentration of pigment, which is very, very high, highest that I've come across, but also the effect of the resin. So resin refracts light much more richly than standard oil does. So oils are often people say that oils, the richness of the color can't be compared with any other color, and this is true. If you want that a step further, the resin oil colors, the MUSSINI resin oil colors take this even further. So the light falling through this layer of translucent color is bent and refracted, then reflected back through this layer of scarlet to give us unparalleled sort of brilliance. Not just though if you can see the richness there coming through. This is just an acrylic underneath here, just for a quick drying effect. But we've got this rich glaze of scarlet. But it's not just in the translucent colours, and we'll have a look at a few different translucent colours in the range. And over 40% of MUSSINI resin oils are translucent, so the glazing possibilities are just endless. But also the resin refracts and bends light across an opaque surface as well. So here we have a very opaque surface, but you can probably see this incredible luster that we're getting just off the top. It's almost a pearlescence, I'd say, especially off the paler areas like here. So we get an incredible movement where an opaque area would usually be very flat. We get an incredible movement across the surface here. So I've got a few colours prepared here. And this colour here is fantastic. This is the phthalo turquoise, translucent turquoise, incredibly strong colour. Mix it up with a little bit of the titanium opaque white here, then a little bit of the medieval yellow. This is this yellow. It was the brightest yellow available to medieval painters, and this is what I love about the Schmincke palette, is that it's full of really exciting traditional and modern colours. Here's a very modern colour here, the brilliant orange. I'll just take a little piece of that. You can see how strongly it tints the colour, turning it nicely grey. And the beauty of this oil is that it goes on, and exactly as it goes on, it remains. So we're not going to see any change from drying there at all. What you see is what you get, and this is something that all painters want to work with. Now the colour is milled 3 to 4 times, depending on the colour, and this gives it an incredible buttery feeling. You can see the brush lines in the paint here, but you can also tell how smooth it is. My brush is having no problem at all at manipulating the colour, even though this is direct from the tube. Now, this combines perfectly with other oil paints. So when I was using my Norma Professional, I was able to just choose this one colour and add the translucent warm red, the brilliant scarlet, to my palette, but it didn't make me happy. The trouble was, no matter how precious Norma is, nothing compares with the MUSSINI resin oil colours, and that was it. I was spoiled. I had to start replacing all of my Norma Professional with the MUSSINI resin oil. So I was very happy as I painted, but you do have to be careful that, you know, first taste is free, kiddies. So it's easy to manipulate this paint across the surface here, adding an extra layer, and you can see this beautiful sort of luster that we get just popping off the paint there. Just having a look at a few of their special translucent colours. We have this lovely sfumato grey. Excuse my fingers here. I'm not going to eat afterwards. This is a transparent grey. So again, we can use it over the top of another color, and we can see that color through. Even in what they call a heavy glaze, that remains transparent. Why would painters use this? Well, this is how you get depth in a painting, by using translucent colors. And this particular color, sfumato, as the name suggests, is a gray that was popularized by people like Leonardo da Vinci for getting an atmospheric effect. So it gives this dark, pushes all of the colors back a little, but it's very strong color like that. Also, for these veiled, sort of half hidden effects, there is a translucent white. Now this is beautiful. This can be used for veiling effects, sort of mists and that sort of thing, but also if you're wanting to talk about memory and things that are half seen. This is a beautiful white. Now they do a translucent white in the Norma, but there's quite a big difference between these two, and you can probably see it even with the camera here. It's almost pearlescent. It's got that beautiful blue pearl sheen to it, and that will stay there as it dries. It's a very low tinting strength color, so if we're introducing another color into it, it will overcome the translucent white very quickly. So we need to use just a little bit of color, more of the translucent white. But for reducing down transparent colors, making them paler, but maintaining that transparency, this is just a fantastic white, and it gives them a real life too, because we've got that pearlescent with the light bouncing through the layer of color there. This is another lovely translucent color. This is a pre-mixed one. This is their transparent green gold. They do an opaque green gold as well, but this is a fantastic glazing color. I tend to look for single pigment colors. Single pigment color will give you the most pure form of the color, and also for mixing, if you combine more than about 4 pigments together, you tend to muddy the color. So if you're working with translucent colors, single pigment colors, it's very rare that you'd mix more than 4 together. But some of these pre-mixed colors are just divine, like the sfumato, the translucent green gold, this medieval yellow, which was said was the brightest yellow available to medieval painters. This is also a mixture, but just a divine vanilla-y yellow color. It's not too bright. Yellow being the brightest color, of course, it pays to have a few yellows which are just a bit lower in chroma. Now, another translucent color that's very important in this range, in fact, this color occurs across the range in Schmincke colors, is this translucent orange. Now, this is a very modern pigment and quite a rare one. Translucent orange is very, very useful because you can stop using my finger there, just in case I'm going to have some canapes afterwards. But orange being opposite blue on the color wheel will just gray your blues a little bit. So if you've got a very pastel blue, like this divine royal blue light, just a touch of the translucent orange and it'll gray the color. So it just takes the intensity out. This is an important color if you're wanting to mix skies, things like that, because I think otherwise you just tend to get too much of a pastel occurring. And you don't need much. As you can see, there was just a very small amount mixed in to give us this beautiful grayish blue now. So darkening blues, translucent orange is just superb. But we can also mix the translucent orange with greens, for instance, this helio green light, and get some helio is a phthalo, so we need very little of that. It's very high tinting strength, but we get these beautiful olive greens, landscape greens from the combination of the two. So although people may say, well, I'd like to mix my orange, this translucent orange, being a single pigment, will give you a lot more clean mixtures. But also it's translucent. A lot of oranges, like the brilliant orange here, cadmium oranges, they're very opaque, and they will tend to muddy the colour more. You tend to get cleaner mixtures from translucent colours. This colour here, this is another favourite pre-mix of mine. This is let's put some down on the painting. This is the royal blue light, and I tend to avoid buying colours which are a mixture of one colour plus a lot of white. You know, I already have a lot of white in my studio. Why would I buy some more white? But this is a combination of cobalt cerulean with white, and having both of those colours available in the MUSSINI range, I thought, well, I can just mix it. After hours of trying to mix just two whites and a blue together, I couldn't achieve this. But contacting Schmincke, asking, oh, what have you done? There's something in this that I can't emulate. They said, well, how long are you mixing for? I said, oh, it must have been nearly an hour. I was just mixing this on my palette and I was getting nowhere. And they were like, ah, okay, well, you know, we grind the pigment into the binder for 24, 36, 48 hours. So if you kept going, you can do it. I thought it would be easier to buy a tube. Big tubes as well. So obviously, if I was using this mainly for skies and things, the 150ml tube works out a lot better value. Great to be able to buy oil paint in that sort of size. Likewise, the translucent orange I've bought in that big size as well. Some of these other translucent colours here. There's a beautiful, again, it's rare to get a transparent yellow. Usually Indian yellow is the go-to. This is the transparent yellow, and there is a new one, and one of the 3 new colours from MUSSINI. There is another brilliant yellow transparent. So unfortunately, with transportation being such a drama at the moment, mine's still on a boat from Germany, but I'm looking forward to receiving that. You can see this colour here is a lot cooler. Let's get some better light on it here. A little bit dead in the camera, but it's a much cooler transparent yellows, whereas Indian yellow is a very saffron colour. This is very much a very almost quincy yellow, transparent quince, but you can see this beautiful refraction of light here. I'm going over the top of the Madder Lake Deep and some Caesar purple here, and I'm getting some lovely reds emerging from that glaze combination over the top there. The opaque colours are also just crazy. This is their cadmium red deep, and the opacity on it is just incredible. One coat just covers everything, even these areas of dramatic contrast there. This is a colour that I use across their ranges, just pure. The cadmium colours I don't find mix very well, just because of the density of the pigment, but they're fantastic underneath another colour. So as a base to glaze over the top of, or just as a standalone colour. I mean, that's just a fantastic deep red there. And again, you can see the luster on the surface there. This richness of the resin stays as it dries. Incredible depth there. A friend of mine was commenting about the resin content, and they said, well, natural resins like damars, don't they yellow? It's like, well, of course there's resin and there's resin, and there's different qualities of resin, like there are different qualities of oil. And Schmincke are using finest Palembang damar resins in this, but of course what they didn't recognize was, of course, oil paint yellows. So the oils in oil paint will also yellow. They'll gather a patina over years, and the damar resin actually yellows less than the oils. Of course, each of these colors has a specific recipe as far as the oils go. So there are portions of linseed oil, which is your best drying and adhesive oil, yet is the most yellow. Balanced with the paler safflower, poppy, walnut oils, which might be clearer but much poorer drying and adhesive oils. And depending on the combination of oils that they can use with each individual pigment, they can use a portion of resin to replace some of the excess fatty oils in that recipe. And so out of 108 colours in the Mussini range, there are 108 individual recipes using balanced amounts of resin with balanced amounts of each of 4 or 5 different kinds of oil. So it's a real chemistry, and this chemistry comes from from a firm which has been in the same family for well over 140 years this year. Happy birthday, Schmincke. I'd also like to talk a little bit about the drying times, because drying times, I have issues with people say, oh, I've got this very slow drying layer of blue, for instance, or black or white and reds. And this is true. Different oils will dry at different rates. Now, Schmincke have included in the revamping of the Mussini range for this year a drying time scale divided into 3 different categories. And for instance, on my palette here, the translucent white that I was using, this is a very fast drying white. So just well, depending on the climate at the moment, summer in Auckland, so we're looking at sort of 3 to 7 days, I guess, for something like that. And I was using some very slow drying colours, the brilliant orange and the phthalo turquoise there. And it's going to take a lot longer for those. But to actually have this now documented in the colour charts means that you can plan your painting and put slower layers over the top of quicker drying layers. Well, for quicker drying, everyone's got everyone didn't have much time before, but it looks like now we've all got more time than we had before. It's one of the good things, I guess, about a pandemic, is we're having to slow down a little bit. So if you do want to speed up your colours, Schmincke have a range of fantastic mediums. And there are just a couple of really special ones that I'd like to talk about. One's called medium L, And this one is an alkyd resin. Now, alkyd resins are modern synthetic resins. They tend to speed the drying. They tend to thin the consistency of the paint down and increase the gloss or the brilliance of the paint. Now, it takes many months to make a tube of Mussini. It can take 3 to 4 months to get the formulation just perfect in this tube. So Schmincke make mediums which are very, very strong, because you don't want to mess with that recipe too much. Actually, I'll just show you this. Some people say, I don't know if you can see it there, oh, it's dry in the bottle. Look at that, it's dry. It's not dry, it's a thixotropic gel. Now, thixotropic gel is a gel that in rest will firm up, and when agitated will go to a liquid. So, and there's a good reason why we can have a medium like this. So you can see it's like a jelly here, right? So that if I want to speed the drying of colour, say this red will take a little while to dry, but I don't want to change the consistency of the colour too much. It's going to be way too much. Let's get rid of some of that. I can just gently fold in the medium L into there and keep some of that soft-bodied paint, right? So that I've got the fast-drying character of the medium L. I've got the increased richness or brilliance of the colour with the medium L, but I've still got reasonably stout paint to push across my surface. So this here, you can see still nice brush marks in my paint if I'm wanting a pasty kind of paint. This is a translucent colour, metallate light. However, because it's a thixotropic gel, if I give it some more agitation, now we've got a very slick colour. So with the same medium, I can go from a soft-bodied oil paint now to quite a, not fluid, but very, very brushable colour. Now, you might have noticed I popped some aside there. Really the maximum proportion you want to use in your paint is about 20%. That's maximum. So you can see that even just with 20% though, this has really enacted a quick effect on the colour here. So now I've got a very brushable, very slick paint, and this is going to probably halve my drying time. So you want to be very cautious with how much you add into your paint. You don't want to interrupt the very carefully balanced chemistry of this tube. At the same time, you want to get the benefits from the medium, but it means that a 60 ml jar like this, maximum 20% into your colour, you can use that on a big tube like this. It's going to go for miles. Important thing, pop the cap back on as soon as you've got the colour out, because the whole point of it is a drying agent. So if we leave that cap off, it will start drying in the bottle. But if you're a retailer or distributor watching this, yes, it will settle into a gel in the bottle. That's okay if you give it just a quick shake. That will come away as a liquid. Once we let it stand again, it'll go back down to a gel. Now, another very interesting new medium that Schmincke brought out is another alkyd resin. Alkyd resins are very, very useful. You don't want to use too much of them. If you go above that 20%, really what happens is, let's get a gorgeous colour. Which gorgeous colour? Let's use this Caesar purple. It's a fantastic, look at that, fantastic bluish violet really lovely. If you go above 20%, then you tend to get very poor adhesion with subsequent layers. You also get a very plasticky looking film because it's a synthetic resin. So, most people painting with oils, they want to paint with oils because of the richness of the oil. You don't want to introduce too much synthetic resin into them. This one's a little different though. This is called medium W. This is the gel. It also comes as a fluid. And this one you add about one part medium W gel to 2 parts paint. Now, I do like the gel rather than the fluid because I can just lay them out together like that and see what my proportions are. Now, this needs to be thoroughly mixed through the paint, this medium W. You may pick what W stands for. Luckily, it's the same in German and in English. Wasser or water. So what we are doing here is mixing a alkyd resin through the oil paint. So alkyd resin is going to speed the drying, it's going to improve the flow, and it's going to increase the brilliance. But the medium W also makes it water miscible. Now, for a lot of oil painters, this is just crazy, and you don't want to put water anywhere near it. But this is fantastic. So this is my little phial of water, because you do need to get the proportions right. So I'm just going to put a couple of drops of water here, just in a corner, just to see if I've got the proportions right. And if the paint mixes in together, it looks like it's going through all right, then my proportions are okay. If it coagulates, if it separates and goes very sticky, then I need to add a little bit more of the medium W. It's as simple as that. Why would I add water? Well, this allows me to do effects which normally oil painters would have to use solvents with. So here, let's get a brush, some water. I can use as much water as I want and get a very thin, washy effect on this canvas, which normally I would have to use plenty of solvent with. In fact, let's get a lot on there. Now with solvent, as the name suggests, solvent dissolves oil paint, right? It dissolves the binders. So you end up, if this was solvent, you'd end up with a very weak paint film here. So problems with adhesion, chalking of the paint, not to mention oddly asphyxiated. Whereas here, just sitting at my table, the only fluid I'm introducing into the paint is water. Now, water doesn't dissolve the binder of oil paint. So as this dries, the water evaporates, all of the binder remains in the paint. So I keep a very strong and stable paint film. And yet I can get these beautiful bleedy sort of effects, which 20th century painters were so thrilled about. I don't need to add a lot of water. I have a friend who uses medium W almost with no water, and he gets this beautiful, soft-bodied, quick-drying, very rich effect to his paint. But really, the best thing about this, because for me, it's the worst thing about oil painting, is washing your brush. So water, brush. It's just pretty crazy, huh? Look at that. So now I can go on to another color. Now, my next color, if I was painting over the top of the Caesar purple there, would also need to have medium W mixed with it. So we can't, oil and water doesn't mix, so I can't introduce a non-medium W color into my wet paint. Once it's dry, of course I can use non-adulterated color over the top of that. Also, over dry standard oil paint, I can use my medium W affected color, no problem. It's just when it's wet, you're either going all out medium W or not. But I mean that, you know, I used to spend half an hour at the sink washing my brushes. I'd be able to get this little stain out with a little Da Vinci brush cleaning soap, but that's pretty good. Probably the most important medium, though, I feel for oil painting, I don't just feel, but this is borne out by the grades, is primer, and a lot of people forget that. That priming is the most essential thing you can do for good oil paint. Not just adhesion of layers, but the brilliance of additional layers of primer will give you a very highly reflective surface to bounce light back through your layers of oil. It will make your brush marks stand out so much better. And allow you to blend much better. We are fooled, I think, into a lot of pre-primed canvas, which says pre-primed, and sure it is. This is mainly for the acrylic market, and also mainly for people who aren't taking maybe so much attention as serious recreational painters and professional painters. There are a range of different primers, but for oils, this one here, Schmincke Primer #1 is perfect. Let's see if I can show. It's very hard to show white on white. Let's give it a go. So this, oh yeah, we can get some texture there. This is the surface here, and don't know if you can hear that, but it's like rubbing on silk or something. It's a half chalk primer. Now, usually half chalk primers is something that you'd cook up with rabbit skin and whiting and what have you, and they might be okay for wooden panel and so forth, but it's not very flexible. So on a canvas support like this, you need a flexible half chalk primer, and Schmincke Primer #1 is flexible enough to go on these flexible supports, stretch canvas, for instance. Also, this chalk gives it an absorbency which is different to the plastic gessos that are generally for acrylic. It's got a quite strongly absorbent nature, so your paint takes very well to it. But the chalk also allows you to sand back the surface. So I've got this very silky, smooth surface. This is about 3 coats of it on top of a pre-primed canvas. Very silky, smooth coating, which allows me to push paint around direct from the tube without any softening with a medium around the surface. And it's quite unique. I haven't come across a flexible half chalk primer like the Schmincke Primer #1. It's a concentrate. You can kind of use it straight from the pot, but really you need to dilute it down. I do it mainly 15 to 20%, up to a maximum of 30%, but it's a very strong primer. So I fully endorse that one. So MUSSINI resin oil for me as a painter, it has a very long history. MUSSINI oil paints been made since 1881, but the recipes originated much longer before that, in the Renaissance. And these are not only unique colors, but give a unique refraction and luster of paint that you won't find in a normal oil paint. Let's just go back up and you can see me again. Hi there, back to me. MUSSINI resin oil paints kind of spoiled me, but as you can see from the work behind, I work a lot in acrylics these days. And this is because of the versatility of acrylic paint. But like I said, Mussini spoiled me. It spoiled me even from other oil paints. And so I was after an acrylic paint which would kind of emulate that handling that you get from an oil paint. And these PRIMAcryl, artist acrylic, really are the closest I have found to an oil paint feel. So they're buttery yet smooth, and they have a very even, structured kind of consistency. They're not blobby or thin. And this is because they are triple milled. So they're milled in the same way as an oil paint, past the point perhaps where other manufacturers think this is crazy, this is just costing too much money. But to a point where the paint reaches sort of maximum butter, and it goes where you want it to go, and maximum color intensity too. So just quickly going to show some of the PRIMAcryl. And this is one of my favorites, the cadmium yellow deep. Very egg yolk yellow. Very opaque, very strong, brilliant. And you can see this, you can see the brush lines in the paint. It's just like how the oil paints were handling a few minutes ago. Beautiful control. I can pop color off my brush, and it's very consistent in how it goes down. It brushes out fine. So if you don't want that strong brush texture, I can brush that out. I can even soften it if there's enough time with a, it's very hot here in Auckland, so perhaps that's drying already. But that color strength is just incredible. And the feel of the brush is just like I'm using an oil paint. One of the colors that perhaps everyone says, oh, well, I'll just buy this in the cheaper range, would be white, right? So, well, titanium white, let's get that. Let's just get that in the cheaper range. But Schmincke have headed us off at the pass on that one. Their titanium white is without doubt the strongest, most opaque white, even over the top of this very dark blue here. It's the most opaque white you can buy in an acrylic paint. White, especially over a dark, usually you'd have to do two or three layers. In this case, we're getting super coverage just with a single brush stroke over the top there. It's just incredible. They do 3 whites. The titanium white, they do a zinc white, which is a translucent white, and a structure white. Now, structure white is quite interesting. It's, if I'm wanting to mix colors down without getting quite so much of a pastel that the titanium, being so opaque, will give, then I've got this structure white, which is still a good strong white, but just doesn't tend to pastelize the colors quite so much. Of course, zinc white won't pastelize either, but being a transparent color, being a transparent color, mixing it with an opaque color like this cadmium yellow deep is futile, really. So we can see here that it's translucent. We can see through it. We're getting a bit of that red through it. You can see the control with this color. The way that it comes off the brush is just, that control is just fantastic with this color. Very, very consistent across all colors with the feel of it. Also with that wet to dry shift that artists will talk about as far as acrylics going slightly darker when they dry, lighter when they dry. You don't get that with the PRIMAcryl. The PRIMAcryl, there's very little wet to dry shift. This is because they uniformly kind of slightly gloss sheen. They've got like a semi-gloss, and this will prevent them from having too much of that change. So they actually kind of look like they're still wet when they dry, so you don't get that horrible flattening off that you do with acrylic paint. Now, PRIMAcryl also comes in a fluid color, which is fantastic for big areas, but I tend not to use it. I tend to use a very special fluid acrylic from Schmincke, and that's the AERO color. So AERO color is liquid acrylic, or what Schmincke call an acrylic ink. So it has an ink consistency, but it's not a dilution of acrylic. It's an incredibly strong concentrated color. In fact, this is the strongest form of color I have found, and I would use 80% AERO color in my paintings. Now it's so versatile. So let's just go through why I think this stuff's absolutely the bomb. Let's start with seeing how strong it is. So AERO color is slightly thixotropic. It needs a little shake before you use it. This stops it from drying in the jar, or more particularly, it was designed for airbrush to stop it drying in the color cup. All right, I'm going to put one drop down on here, and we'll see how far that goes. So you can see this incredible color strength just from a single drop of color. I'm going to cover most of this, and I've done some home studio or some studio color fade proof tests on this, and even at extreme dilutions like this, the light fastness is really good. So you can see color stays. The one drop of color goes for a heck of a long way. We've got these beautiful sort of blossoming effects. Now, an easy way to get coverage with a liquid like this is to drop it into a wet surface. So a lot of people love this sort of effect these days, but I find it's also just a good way to move the color across and get a better coverage than I would with a paste paint. You see the trouble with paste, to get coverage, you're working against that structure. Whereas here, let's use this poppy red for this stuff. Look at that. Here, there's no structure, so I can take this really super strong color and push it across the surface with very little actual color. So my very large paintings, which are a good sort of 6 square meters across, I'll be using this AERO color because a few drops dropped into a wet surface, and I can get these incredible shifts of color. Some of this crazy green into it. Now, it's this versatility of fluid colour that I really like. And let's have a quick look at something here. So there's a whole lot of marks on here. Let's have a look. Underneath, we've got these bleedy, blossoming, sort of merged colours. And this has just been made by wetting the surface of the canvas and dropping the AERO colour directly in there and letting them sort of bleed together till they're dry. Now, so it gives us a very soft look there. If you use too much water, of course, or if I'm just brushing water across a gessoed surface like this, it'll break up because we're losing some of the adhesive strength of the binder in this paint. So I just use a couple of drops of AERO medium in my water, and that gives it enough tension to stick to the surface. Also very good if you're wanting to make it stick to non-porous surfaces like plexiglass or glass or metal, things like that. We've also got these finer marks here, and these are made with pens. So the fabulous thing about a liquid is not only that it spreads over a large area, but it can feed through a small area as well. So these liner markers from Schmincke come empty. There's an empty one here. And we can just fill them with the AERO colour, either unmixed like this, or easy to fill. Coloured insert out, two little balls in there, don't lose them down the sink. And if you're wanting to make up your own colour, luckily for me, we can over large areas and also buy these large bottles of AERO colour. So let's put some white in there. The super white is incredible. If you have people who are after an opaque white pen, you know, some people use the whiteout pens for trying to get highlights, but the super white is super opaque, and we can just feed it through here. I'm just going to use some of this poppy red with lots of the white. Coloured insert goes back in, collar goes back on. Give it a shake to mix that colour up. Fleshy sort of colour. Pump the nib. Maybe not on the painting until the colour starts to come down. And I've got my unique coloured AERO colour. So now I've got acrylic in a pen. So my mark making can have the exploratory and exacting style of drawing, but I'm putting paint down, and I'm putting highly light fast, highly adhesive paint down as well. The benefit of filling your own marker like this is I know exactly what's in this marker. I'm using AERO colour, which is exactly the same as I've dropped in here. I've done these lines in, the broader marks with the giant markers. They do a range of 4 different sizes, but also with a brush. So fluid markings with the brush here. The green is put on with a brush, with an airbrush as well, all with the same colour. And because these are acrylics, if I wanted a thick colour out of them, of course I could mix them with a gel and turn them into a solid paint. Now, being an acrylic ink, we've got like all pigments, we've got varying opacity. So here we can see down here that they call the brilliant red opaque, but when you're putting on colour as thinly as you are with an acrylic ink like this, even an opaque is really, it's a relative term. So 36 colours of standard colours, but then to supplement them, they have 12 total cover colors. Now the total cover with this black label here gives you a much more opaque covering. Then, just because Schmincke like to spoil you for choice, they give you 9 candy colors. So again, in this red, we've got this flame red here, and this is fully transparent, really transparent. I'm talking, you can see for miles and miles. So over a dark gradation like this, we've got the different yellows. So here we've got one of the candy yellows, we've got a standard yellow, then we've got an opaque yellow. And you can see here with the candy yellow, we can see every little different nuance of the greys underneath through to the very black here. It's slightly less with the basic yellow there. And with the total cover, it's pretty good on a single coat. Now, that's a very dramatic shift from almost a black to a white. And so any pale color like a yellow, even if it's opaque, I'm sorry, but you've got to go and do another coat. It's the same with solid paint as well. You can see with the reds though, with the candy red, with the standard red, and with the opaque red here, the total cover, that the coverage, red being much closer to in between the white and the black, you've got much better coverage there. So we've got 3 different ranges of color where we can vary what we're doing with it. All 3 of these will go through the pens, will go through your airbrush. You can drop them on, what have you. Actually, talking about that dropper, these are solid glass bottles. I've dropped these on my studio floor and they've bounced. So I tend to keep them. You can buy them empty, but as you can see, this is an old red total cover. It's now got this jazzy green in it. The dropper here gives you an exact drop each time. So you can make up your own colors. So if you think, okay, well, I'd like a green like this. Well, you could try 10 parts yellow, 1 part black, and you can do that quite easily from the dropper there. Look at that, that's just a beautiful green, isn't it? More finger painting. And they'll go on to just about any surface. So right. Here we've got a leather shoe. And leather's very hard to get colour to stick to, but AERO colour will go on just about everything. And with an AERO lac, you can prime the shoe and get the AERO colour to stick. And this colour range, to me, showcases Schmincke's innovation and expanding the possibilities for artists and spreading colour across all kinds of surfaces. You know, they really mix the traditional with the modern. And you know, they've got over a century of tradition, and they've got German technology. Beautiful, love it.
Evan, it's fantastic. So really, thanks a lot for all your enthusiasm for paint. I mean, I'm not an artist myself, but just by listening to your words, I really want to paint. You're describing a primer, a simple primer for oil painting. And I'm really starving to go and to try that product. So, I mean, as I said earlier, I had the chance to be with you for some days, and just within the last hour, I really enjoyed it and learned a lot. And thanks a lot for all your passion, your over for almost your entire life for Schmincke. This is outstanding, and I'm really thankful that you've joined. And for all the others, we're now shifting over to a Schmincke session. We're going to present the novelties for this year. As you can already see here, it will be all around Schmincke and MUSSINI, and just go back to the timetable and see you in a couple of minutes. Thank you, Evan, and see you in a bit.
See you. Ciao, ciao.